So you lay down some of it, add your toppings, and then you put down more on top so that things don't fall off or slide off. And so that was a useful tip I learned.
So you're saying there's cheese under sauce, or there's toppings under cheese?
There's toppings under cheese.
So they're
and above
they're
cheese.
underlings. They're
Yeah.
underlings.
Well, they called it top cheese and bottom cheese. Hi, my name is Lon Lamb, and I'm a senior editor for Cooks Illustrated.
I'm Andrew Janjigian, also senior editor at Cooks Illustrated.
And today we're going to talk about pizza.
Yes, pizza.
Yes,
Everyone's favorite topic.
Jinx. All right, here we go. First, from Marley. How many days can you proof pizza dough in the fridge for? And when will it become overproofed? And what happens when you try to use overproofed pizza dough?
Okay. So for my thin crust pizza dough, which is kind of like the one that started it all, not here for me, I mean, we proof it for 1 to 3 days, but 3 days is ideal. You get the best relaxation of the dough and the best flavor after 3 days. It's still usable after 4 days, but it's starting to go south and it'll be slack and maybe hard to shake.
So when you say go south, do you mean like it tastes bad or you
No,
can't stretch it or?
It will start to, like, the goal of a long fermentation is to let the dough relax and to get flavor. But if the dough relaxes too much, it will just be slack and won't have any structure. It'll fall apart when you go to stretch it.
Okay. Next. Pony's Revel, on a related note, says, I make your classic pizza dough regularly. Sometimes I don't roll it out real well and I end up with thin spots in the middle. If I try to fold the dough back up and re-roll it, the dough does not reincorporate. Can this be corrected?
Okay, so
Wait, can I start?
yes.
I would say instead of using a rolling pin, I'm going to assume you meant stretch and not roll because it's kind of, it's not a hard dough to work with, but it's not really amenable to rolling out. You'll end up using way too much flour and you kind of get weird spots. Stretching it is a lot better. You can use a pin to get yourself started if you want, but you can also just kind of use the flat of your palm and just mush to flatten. But what would you say?
I would say if you're a novice at making pizza, you're gonna have issues with it forming holes or having thin and thick spots. I would suggest making extra dough. And that way you don't have to try to re-roll the dough and stretch it up because it won't relax quick enough for you to re-roll it and use it a second time or try to use it a second time. You're better off just tossing that bit of dough and starting over.
Because you just bake it and make like breadsticks.
Yeah, you could bake it. You could, it'll be a little, not stretch it out quite as much, or patch it the way he talked about doing, and just use it. You don't want to have holes in your dough though, because that's where the cheese and sauce will go through, and then you'll end up with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. There's really no way to correct it. You can't I don't know, if you've rolled it out and there's flour all over the place, could you mist it with some water, put it back in a food processor and give it another 2 days?
2 days. So your guests are there waiting for pizza, and you're like, well, these are gonna be ready in 2 days.
Make some pasta.
Nah. Okay, you could change course and make pasta instead of pizza. I just think you're better. You could easily just start over. So make extra dough. Like, I feel like pizza is one of the things that just practice makes perfect. So if you have extra dough, then you can make a mistake, and it's not the end of the world.
So the takeaway here is start your dough 2 days in advance. You'll have something that you can use, and you can always make extra and have pizza the next day.
It doesn't take much effort to make a few extra balls of dough.
All right, cool. So speaking of stones, Sarah was asking, how do you clean one of these guys? Like, if you do have these stains on there, are they problematic?
Not really. If there's like crust burnt on stuff, you can take a bench scraper, a metal bench scraper, and just scrape them off. But a patina, it's not a big deal. It's not going to affect the way it bakes.
But what if I don't like the way it looks?
I don't know that there's any way to. I don't think
get a
there's
steel.
Yeah, get a steel, get a new stone, and don't
Never.
use it.
Actually, why don't we talk about the difference between a steel and a stone?
Okay, so this is a baking stone. It's a ceramic material, kind of like clay. It's like the hearth of a brick oven for baking bread. These are great to have. They're useful for bread and pizza. But if you want to really upgrade your pizza game, then you want one of these. And this is a pizza steel or a baking steel. It's a 1/4 inch thick seasoned steel plate. And because it's metal, it's conductive or more conductive than the stone. That means the heat that's in it will go into the pizza faster. Pizza will cook in 12 minutes on a stone and 8 minutes on a steel. The faster, the better.
So, do they heat up faster?
Yes,
do
they
you
also.
have to preheat it as
You don't have to
long?
preheat them as long. 30 minutes versus an hour. So that's a nice benefit too.
Okay. All right.
But here's what when I teach classes on pizza making, what I tell my students, I say, find out most of them already have a stone, and that's good because they can still use it for bread. If you have a stone and then you want to upgrade and you buy a steel, instead of switching to the steel, what you do is you put the stone in the oven. You put the stone in the oven, and then you put the steel on top of the stone. Okay, and now you have.
Why do I want to do this? Sorry, I only have so much
Okay.
space
in your oven?
in my entire kitchen.
Okay,
It's like the size of this table.
If you want to get rid of one of them to make room, that's fine. But if you happen to keep them both, this is the way to roll because this is a fast heating conductive surface, and this is a battery for it. So you preheat this for an hour the way you normally would, and this will hold extra heat that the steel can't, and so it recovers a lot faster.
So why is faster better?
Faster is better because because the goal of pizza is to have a crisp exterior crust, nice brown cheese, nice brown rim, but to have the inside of the dough be this side of raw,
So you want
underbaked.
medium rare insides?
Exactly. It's just like cooking a steak in a way. You really do. You want it to cook on the outside, but not on the inside, so that it's tender and crisp at the same time.
yeah.
So the faster the better. That's why a 1,000-degree oven at your local wood-fired or coal-fired place can make better pizza than you can at home.
And is that the case for all pizza, like across different styles?
Pretty much. Thick crust pizzas generally are not on the doughy side on the inside. So that's
Yeah.
one place where like a home oven is not a problem. And it's baked through. But a thin crust pizza typically is ideally a little underdone on the inside.
Okay, so if I got one of these setups and I'm in my home oven, could I like flip on the convection fan to speed things up?
You can help. Convection will help get browning on the rim and the cheese, but it'll tend to brown most closest to where the fan is. So you'll have to rotate the pizza.
Because you're in and out. And, like,
Yeah,
releasing
you're opening
heat.
the door, and so you can play around. I would play around with that, just in the way that I would consider playing around with my broiler. Broiler's kind of
Is it like a cheat? You're just like blasting it at
well,
the
no,
end?
that's how a good wood-fired oven has heat coming from the top as well as the bottom. Because
So do you have your broiler on the entire time? Like, do you have to time that cycle? It's
you
complicated.
have to, yeah. Broilers are one of those things that like require some. I wouldn't like have a pizza party for the first time and decide you're going to use your broiler because that's a recipe for disaster. I might play around with my broiler on my off time, and once I figured it out, use it for parties.
All right,
You just don't want to burn the pizza because it can be too hot on top.
I can see that. All right, here we go. From Leslie, Witness to Events on Twitter. My tip for getting pizza from the peel to the stone and back again is using parchment. I don't see that recommended, but it sure saves heartache. AJ, you've never recommended this. Why?
No, I don't. Okay, this is kind of a multi-part question. First of all, I think that if you put your pizza directly on the stone or the steel, you get a better crust because you get direct contact. You also get moisture burning off faster. Parchment can kind of collect water under the pizza, and so the crust doesn't get quite as crisp. So if you do have trouble getting the pizza off of the peel and onto the stone, then and you want to use parchment, I would say use parchment, but after 2 or 3 minutes, once the pizza is kind of set on the bottom, you can pull it out, like pulling a tablecloth off a table.
Yes.
You can basically do that, and then you can let the pizza sit directly on
You
top.
like have all your dinner party guests come in
Exactly.
and guys, magic
Yes.
trick time.
Exactly. But what I'd recommend instead of parchment is this guy. This is a super peel, and it's basically a conveyor belt for pizza. Sorry, it's a conveyor belt for pizza, which means that you can put you can get your pizza into the oven without the fear that most people have when they're using one of these and they're worried about it sticking to it. because it just drops right off with no. And you can also use a minimal amount of flour, which means you don't get that sort of raw flour on your
Yeah.
side.
So if I wanted to practice this, because these things take some practice.
Yes,
I was
for
no good
sure.
at it for a while. Here,
Yeah, okay.
go for it.
So the way you use these is not to push it off like that. It's not a conveyor belt in that sense. It actually will drop straight down.
Yes.
So you put it all the way into the oven and have the lip of it almost at the back of the stone. And then you hold your other hand holds this rail and you pull backwards with this hand. And that's the counterintuitive part.
Yeah.
You have to practice. I would just
Like-
practice for forever, on the counter with your
Forever
phone
and ever.
until you get it. And then once it's second nature, this is a great thing. They're not, the super peel's not so good for getting a pizza out of the oven. So just like you need a stone and a steel, if you want to be really, you still need one of these for getting a pizza in and out. This is
Got it.
basically a spatula. This is a conveyor.
So back to my tiny kitchen. If I
Okay,
could only
yeah, I'm
have two
sorry.
of these things, which two do I have?
Okay, if you could only invest in two tools, I would say you'd want a stone and a simple metal peel. You can just use parchment or extra flour, just to be careful. You'll get by.
Yeah.
And if you want to upgrade, then that's when you get the steel and the super peel.
As soon as I upgrade my apartment,
Yeah.
I'll look into everything else.
Yes.
Okay.
For the record, no cornmeal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't.
Semolina?
Not a fan of. I don't want to taste that or have that stuff be on the pizza when I eat it, and so coarse things like semolina and cornmeal tend to get stuck in the dough, and then you get this kind of gritty texture. Excess flour is kind of floury and starchy, and that's not good. It's also raw; it doesn't cook through. So the minimal amount of stuff you can put on it, the better
Yeah.
it's gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's some places that like cornmeal is their thing. Like
You see it
Yeah.
all over the place.
it's not my thing.
Wow. All right.
I'm kind of a stickler.
Here's another thing you're going to be a stickler about. What exactly is cold fermentation, and should I be doing that with my pizza dough?
Yeah, we should have sort of started there. Maybe. So cold fermentation is a process where you make your dough, usually in a food processor, which is how we like to do it, which is quick, and you shape it into balls. So individual pizza pieces of dough, individual pizza portions of dough, and you put those into the fridge immediately. So it hasn't started fermenting yet. The yeast is in there, but it hasn't woken up. And then it goes in the fridge for 1 to 3 days. And like we said, 3 days is ideal. And what happens during that time is the fermentation starts and you get the buildup of interesting flavors, complex flavors in the dough. And the dough that is initially kind of springy and elastic will start to relax. That'll make it easy to stretch out when you go to make it. And that's the goal. You want flavor and relaxation in the dough. Otherwise, it will fight you as you go to stretch it. And then you'll have an angry chef.
It's sad guests who are
Sad
just like,
guests,
you promised
yeah.
pizza. Lies.
Except you just threw it onto the floor because you're so mad at it. I'm speaking from experience here, by the way.
I'm sure. Okay, so this one is from Kevin Hollinger. He uses the bottom rack, or he places his pizza stone on the bottom rack.
Because that's what he's heard. Other people have said that's the best place to put your stone for making pizza.
Right,
Yeah.
and we say top rack.
Exactly.
And we say that because?
We say that because the sort of idea behind the bottom rack is that that's where the heat element is, so you're going to get it's going to be as hot as possible. The problem is a pizza has a bottom and a top.
And the bottom's getting plenty of heat
Yeah,
from
you
your
want to
stone.
cook the top. You want that cheese to melt, and you want the rim to get brown, and all that stuff. And so you need heating that comes from both directions at once. So by putting the stone near the top of the oven, you get heat reflected back down to the top of the pie. So you get it from top and bottom. So what we recommend is that you put it as close to the top of the oven as you can while still leaving enough room to get your pizza in and out. So you have to look at your oven and you
Yeah,
want
you need, like,
2
what?
or 3 inches of
Yeah.
headspace, but as close as you can. If you go to a pizzeria, you look, especially if it's like a Blodgett oven, those things are pretty shallow.
Yeah, the
You
doors
wanna
are like this
recreate
wide.
that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Toppings, more toppings.
How do I get a firm crust that doesn't sag?
Oh yeah, let's talk about flop.
Okay. Should we get a
Yes.
slice of pizza? And...
Yeah, let's get some pizza.
Okay. We don't have any plates.
That's okay.
Here, do you want a demo flop? Because that one has a good flop.
Okay. Sylvanair. I want to know how to get a firm crust that doesn't sag under the weight of the toppings. Sylvanair, I have bad news. I think you're putting too much stuff on your pizza.
Absolutely, yeah. Topping, the amount of topping you put on the pizza has to be kind of in line with the thickness of the crust. If you're getting a sogged out crust, it's because you're putting too much stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to put a lot of toppings, go with a thick crust pizza, like a pan pizza or a skillet pizza that's like a puffier dough that can handle all that weight.
Yeah. So I know that one of the hallmarks of a good slice is the flop, and kind of, it's not standing up, and it's not supposed to. You want to talk about the flop?
Yeah, I mean, but it's just that you don't want. I mean, this pizza, it's some pretty good. That's actually pretty good flop right there. Yeah, I mean, that's what you want. Something that'll bend, but also not so many toppings that when you get the flop, you also get the slide.
So is that
The flop and slide is not ideal.
So is that like a sign that you haven't baked it too much, that it's not so the bottom is
that's part of that slightly underbaked interior it's crispy on the bottom, but it's still got some flex to it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and
so it's not going to be
the
dry
way
on
to
the
counteract
inside?
flop is the fold, right? That's the New York style.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
It's a classic for a
yeah,
reason.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so this one comes from James Henderson, and he says, all else equal, is wood better than gas for pizza? Have you considered doing a blind taste test to confirm it? I think we should, because
I think we should too. I will say this though, that people have, and the idea that you can taste the wood is kind of bunk. Like the reason a wood-fired oven is good is because it can get hot. And the hot, like we said before, the faster you cook the pizza, the better it's going to be. You shouldn't taste the wood on the pizza. You can do just as well in a gas oven that can get to 800 or 1,000 degrees, and there are plenty of ovens that do that. That's the advantage of wood. It's not wood versus gas for flavor. It's wood versus gas or home oven for temperature.
heat.
Yeah.
And are you getting more radiant heat from wood too? Like you're getting
Yeah,
different
there
types
is.
of heat.
Well, those ovens have a bright flame, but
Yeah.
the gas versions have that too. They have
they?
flames in the back, yeah, and so that gives you the radiant heat that cooks the top of the pie. But again, it's not about if there's smoke coming out of your wood-fired oven, it's not a good sign.
know.
We're not smoking pizza here.
We should smoke some pizza next summer.
Okay, well, we'll try that. I think we should do a
Right?
taste test.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Okay. AJ, why is New Jersey tomato pie so good?
Well, for those who don't know, New Jersey tomato pie is this, it's a sheet pan pizza. It's rectangular, it's cut into squares, and it's a medium thick crust, and it's got a really thick tomato sauce on it and no cheese, so it's like tomato heavy. What's cool about it is it's different and it's interesting. And New Jersey is known for tomatoes. It's a garden state, and their tomatoes are, among the best. So it's not a surprise that they would have a pie that's sort of tomato focused.
So Sarah asked, how do you easily grate a ball of fresh mozzarella without hurting yourself?
Oh, that's easy. You don't grate it at all.
Slice it.
Yeah, you slice it or you pick it apart into little bite-sized pieces by hand. If it's really soft cheese, usually just doing it by hand is the best way.
And we're talking like whole.
Soft, fresh mozzarella.
Yeah.
Yeah, soft, fresh, unaged at
Yeah,
all.
not the stuff
Yeah.
that comes in a block that you can
Yeah.
grate. Although
Yeah.
that stuff doesn't grate that well. If you make sure it's
No.
super cold, it's a little
Yeah,
bit easier.
you could throw it in the freezer for, maybe cut it into smaller pieces and freeze those for 10 or 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and they'll grate a lot easier.
Yeah, they won't kind of fall apart and
Smear,
mush in your
yeah.
hands. From the Dark Wolf.
Ooh.
What's a bigger upgrade from mushroom and pepperoni, sopressata and morels, or bacon and baby bellas? I know where this is
Well, I
tough.
want to hear what you think.
So sopressata for sure. Morels seem wasted on a pizza to me. I feel like they're so nice.
Yeah,
and,
maybe if you had a
those are
cream,
like-
morels and tomato don't work for me.
Yeah.
Maybe on a cream sauce you could get away with them.
like, the flavors are so intense. The
Yeah.
other one, bacon and baby bellas.
Baby bells are just brown button mushrooms. They don't have a ton more flavor.
Yeah. Okay, so how would you upgrade
Okay,
mushrooms and
I
pepperoni?
think sopressata is a great like next level version of pepperoni, and I use it all the time. I like a hot sopressata.
Like, what about Nduja?
Andouille is great too. If you don't know it, that's like a kind of semi firm sausage. It's basically like a spread.
It's so good. It's spicy.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's almost like pepperoni butter.
Yeah.
In a kind of crude way, that's what it is. It's like sausage that hasn't been cured as long, and you can spread it with a knife.
There's more fat.
Yeah, and a lot more fat. That's great if you can get it or you make it. So the mushrooms.
mushrooms.
Yeah,
Mushrooms
I
trickier.
like oyster mushrooms on pizza. I feel like they have a little more character to them. But I feel like for most mushrooms, it helps to pre-cook them.
Yeah,
So like I
they're
would
so
saute
watery.
them in olive oil and a little salt or butter even
Yeah.
until they have some color to them. They're not going to burn on the pizza. So the more cooked they are, the better they will come out.
Yeah, or even you could even just nuke them.
Yeah.
Just to get rid of some of that water
Yeah,
that's going to
absolutely.
leach all over the place.
Yeah.
What else? Mushrooms?
That's another thing. I mean, we're not talking about onions. Like, I think that there's caramelized onions are great on pizza. Raw onions are great in their way as long as they're sliced thinly, so they're like kind of cooked through. But there's something in between too. You just like kind of wilt them before they go on the pizza, and they don't get that like caramely sweetness that caramelized onions do. But they are cooked, and then
Yeah.
I think there's like 3 different ways you can do onions.
Any other favorite toppings or topping tips?
I'm a big fan of hot honey on pizza.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. So
I watched when I was working on cast iron pizza. I watched a whole lot of Pizza Hut training videos, and
Oh, yeah, I love those.
they're so great, straight from the '80s, like
Yeah.
giant bow tie and all. But what was really important was like if you're putting toppings on a pizza besides cheese and the sauce, it's nice to split up the cheese, and so you lay down some of it, add your toppings, and then you put down more on top so that things don't fall off or slide off. And so that was a useful tip I learned.
So you're saying there's cheese under sauce, or there's toppings under cheese?
There's toppings under cheese.
So they're under
And above
they're
cheese.
underlings. They're
Yeah.
underlings.
Well, they called it top cheese and bottom cheese.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I mean, there's kinds of there's like a New York style pizza that you put the cheese down first, and then the sauce on top of that, and then you put like a dusting of like Parmesan cheese on top of that, and that's great because then you get melty cheese. Like you don't get like it's not
brown,
It's not brown. It's
hard.
like gooey and melty.
Yeah.
Like and the sauce is protecting it. So like I'm all about about upside down.
Yeah,
And same with toppings. Like if you put them under the cheese, they're not going to crisp up and brown. They're going to stay moist. And
Yeah.
it's just a different effect.
You should go on for a while with the next one so I can eat.
Recipe?
I love pizza, but gluten does not agree with me. Can you suggest ideas for gluten-free pizzas, please?
Yes.
Yes, make Andrew's gluten-free
We
pizza.
have a recipe.
Is there a way to adjust recipes to make them gluten-free that doesn't mean, like, can you sub a gluten-free all-purpose blend or any other blend
In our recipes?
just in a pizza dough recipe?
Or in any pizza dough?
Yeah,
I
like-
think you're better off starting with a gluten-free pizza dough recipe. Like, it's one thing. It's not even easy to do it with bread, to like just swap out like a gluten-free flour for a regular flour and get something that's good. But pizza, it's so thin that and so gluten is important for structure in breads and pizzas. And so if you take that out, then it's hard to get a pizza that is what you expect. Crisp on the bottom, but tender on the inside, blah, blah, blah. So having a recipe that's designed from the bottom up to be that way is better than just doing a swap, trying a swap. So fortunately, I developed a recipe for Cooks Illustrated. It's a pretty good, for gluten-free, it's a pretty good recipe. You're gonna be happy with it. it's got the hallmarks of a pizza: a crisp bottom, a tender interior, and it's pretty easy to make.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now, would you tweak that recipe at all if you went back?
Maybe I haven't really stayed up. There's probably there's
You're
probably
not staying up at night worried that your gluten-free
no,
pizza is not good enough?
I was saying I haven't stayed up to date with like gluten-free technology since that was a long time ago now that I developed it. But there's probably better flour blends or things that I could try, but I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. Do you ever fake pizza with other stuff, like not use pizza dough? I know
like
people who use naan.
Tortillas.
And
I'm a big
tortillas
fan
and-
of French bread pizza. I'm not. I may be a stickler, but on the other hand, I'll eat it any kind. Even bad pizza is good pizza. So French bread pizza, pita bread pizza.
So maybe
Tortilla
if they're
pizza?
yeah, if
Sure.
they're good gluten-free products in those lines, it's
Yeah.
probably an easy way to fake it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any air fryer tips? Convection oven?
How do you keep those baskets are small, right?
Yeah. What?
I don't like.
I don't even
they're
get
like
it.
the space. So would you make like little mini bagel pizzas,
Yeah, I guess.
which sound great? Be like your toaster, but better.
We should ask Russell.
Yes, get Russell in here right
Russell would
now.
know.
Make me an air fryer pizza.
I have no experience with air fryers, so
Yeah, yeah. I just don't know what size they are because those baskets are pretty small. They're like the
Yeah,
size of this napkin.
it's like
so,
a little portable fryer basket.
Yeah.
But it is essentially like a small convection oven, right?
Yeah, but do they make ones that have like platforms on them?
I don't know.
I don't think
So I think the hard thing about that is you would have to have something, you'd have to figure out a way to replace the stone. Otherwise, you're just baking it.
Right.
And what the stone is doing in a regular oven is it's pumping a ton of heat directly into the bottom so that you can get that crisping and browning. And then because you've placed your stone towards the upper portion of your oven, you're getting the heat reflecting from the top and sides, and that browns the top. In an air fryer, the basket, you're in a basket, you're going to be probably 4 to 6 inches away from your heat source, and it's coming pretty much straight from the top. I don't think there's a.
Is it
there-
always from the top?
There might be a heating element at the bottom, but you're not getting any of that contact browning. You're just getting it's like having a broiler on the top and bottom and a little fan on the side. So I don't know that you could call it. I don't know that you could get the texture that you would expect. Although I think it's not the worst.
Yeah.
They
I don't
should-
remember them doing any kind of bread or pizza
Yeah.
in an air fryer.
They should make little mini tiles for like your countertop toaster oven because I bet
They
you could.
they do have steels for
Oh yeah,
for toaster
like a mini
ovens.
steel. Oh,
Yeah.
so cute.
Yeah.
See, I need this setup.
That would be well. There are mini pizza ovens too now that we've
Yeah,
tested them.
those things they take up a lot of space, and I can't make other
Yeah.
things in there. You want me to do it? You want to do it?
Why don't you do it?
All right,
Because
great.
you started it.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for watching and listening to us ramble about pizza. Please ask us any questions you have in the comments below, and we'll see you soon. Bye.